everyone, I'm Liz Hunt.
And I'm Chelsea Poppins.
And this is the Agency Rocket Show, where we discuss the chaos of running a creative agency.
Woo! We have Jeremiah on here today to talk about what he's doing. He's out in LA, Malibu. My bad. And he's gonna be talking about AI and ChatGPT and ways to optimize your business and streamline a few things. So happy to have you.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
So let's first start. Maybe, Jeremiah, give us a little bit of background, what you do, where you've been, just a little bit of professional career background.
Sure. I've had a lot of different careers in my life, from firefighter to now professor at USC in Los Angeles, University of Southern California, and business owner. And so I have a business which is essentially an educational business, but we have many different arms: consulting, coaching, various courses that we offer. And obviously, as a business does, it segments from there. We just got back from a big trip from November, December into January. London, India, 3 cities in India. Where did we go? We went to Delhi, Kashmir, and Mumbai, and then went to Dubai and back to New York and then back to LA. And a lot of it doing what I do, which is consulting with one client, TED. You might be familiar with TED Talks. And so I coach clients for their respective TED Talks.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's awesome.
So is it one-on-one coaching that you do? Or is it kind of like group coaching? Or is it all the above?
All the above. But that particular client, it was one-to-one coaching. Went and met her for her first TED Talk in Mumbai. Then we went to Dubai and then her second TED Talk there. And she's got a book that's launching. And so that's why we're kind of making the rounds, as it were. But I do one-to-one coaching, and I'll do group classes as well for an intimate class of maybe like 10 to 20 people.
And then you also teach at USC, you said?
I do. Yeah. I teach a few different things. Started teaching acting training. So performance for stage, camera. And then that led into, as Robert Frost said, how way leads on to way. And that led me to public speaking, kind of a natural transition. And my dean, shout out to Lori Fisher. She's amazing. She connected me to a lot of different things while at USC, one of which was working with TED and another working with the athletics department on NIL branding. And so it's kind of like, yeah, exactly, Chelsea. Yeah. And so it kind of at the cutting edge of all of this, I've been working with TED now. It's expanded from USC into other markets globally of 10 years now. And NIL, been working on that for, I think, 2 years now. It's been out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's relatively new. So
Yeah. A lot of opportunity there.
So I just want to ask, is your client TED or is your client TED speakers? Or is it all kind of the same?
Well, it's not the same, but again, I'll say all of the above, because we work with TED organizers who are officially representing TED. They're the organizer of that respective event. And I'm also working with my clients to help them write their speech, or their talk, I should say, and get their idea distilled down, and then get their stage presence and performance dialed in as well.
Yeah. That's interesting. Something I've always considered and just thought about anytime I would see a TED Talk is they all kind of have the same vibe. And now meeting you, I'm like, well, this is why.
Jeremiah is the vibe.
Well,
they're so calculated and thoughtful, and they all kind of like have the same cadence in the way that they speak.
The pauses.
Yeah. So that's so interesting. Yes.
The pauses. I mean, there are hundreds of these events worldwide and hundreds of speakers worldwide per year. And I try to break them out of the recipe, as it were.
Sure.
But there are standard kind of principles that TED wants you to adhere to. You don't want to go over 15 minutes. That's one of the kind of requirements. And then you have to have this idea worth sharing, is what they call it. And that's kind of the nucleus of the talk. Right. But I also don't want them to come across as scientists and mathematicians. I want them to come across as great storytellers, because they're content experts, but they may not know how to tell a story properly.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I
And
love that.
storytelling is and you all know this, obviously, you have a podcast, but storytelling is essential and it's the best delivery system for information. If we tell a story, we can pack in human history. We have entire cultures who have oral tradition of their entire history, right? African culture, Native American cultures use this. Look at your favorite movies, your favorite superheroes. It all follows a story cycle. And so that's what I try to give to my speakers. So that way they don't come across as erudite, hard to access. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, we do that a lot at DayCloud, our marketing agency, especially with branding that we do for clients, and we have to tell their story accurately. And so that's why we have such an extensive process. So totally get that and how to get that storyline right.
Yeah. I love it. It's a challenge. I think that's the heavy lifting, because after that, then you know what the brand colors are, you know, the phrases, the catch lines, the one-liners, the problem solution, all of that.
Yeah. It all builds out from that.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about this NIL stuff, because I know Chelsea loves it, loves talking about it, and obviously knows a lot about it. So tell me what your experience is with it, how that's been going, and just kind of tell us what you're doing in that area.
Well, again, through recommendation, through referral, I started at USC, and then it's kind of branched out from there. But when it first started, essentially we were putting together like a marketing package. How do we take this person who's great at what they do, they're an athlete, and then how do we get their brand up, monetize it? But beyond that, many of them are entrepreneurial by nature. Everybody has, at least the athletes that I work with at USC, for example, all have a dream of buying their mom a home or buying, so there's this aspirational quality to it. So I think having goals is part of that. So I'll go in, we'll start with kind of the basics of goal setting, SMART goals. I'll build in some project management workflow. I'll use Scrum or Agile, get them familiar with what Trello is. And so that way they can put their ideas, because, you need a process for any kind of social media. You need a process for all of the brand deals, unless you have management. And like very few of them do have management. Some of them, like Bronny James, for example, LeBron James's son, he's going to have all the resources, as he should. He's got great guidance. But the others who don't, they're going to do this kind of solopreneur venture. And so I give them the toolkit, as it were, as a solopreneur, as an entrepreneur, getting them dialed in with goal setting, proper goal setting, systems to achieve like atomic habits, for example, kind of a daily implementation, and then a project management workflow. That sounds like a lot, but we can really pack that into like a one-day workshop. And then we'll get into the branding of the social media stuff, and I'll give them all the tools like we were just talking about. Like, here's your scheduling tools, here's your AI tools for pictures, for content. Let's create a workflow so that way we can just assembly line this and make it really easy for you. And then let's get you in front of sponsors and get the deals done.
Yeah.
That's really cool. How do you, I guess from like you're saying you're giving them project management tools, are you referring to the social media, all of that as like kind of your project management stuff, or is it that Trello?
Trello is the project management tool that I recommend because it's easy to use. It's free.
Easy. Yeah,
exactly. And there's endless tutorials on the YouTube about it. And that's why I use that. Obviously, if you're dealing with a company, you can go into much more robust tools like Asana, ClickUp, Monday, all the usual suspects there.
Right.
But with an individual or with a group of individuals, I'll just keep them at Trello. And if you're familiar with Scrum as a workflow, it's basically a 3-step workflow to do, doing, and done. And most people can just adapt to that within a day. And that's an easy one to teach rather than some of these more complex ones that companies use and have multiple departments kind of interfacing. I just want to keep it simple for an individual. Plus, an athlete, a college athlete, they basically have 2 full-time jobs, as you well know, Chelsea, right? Like you have your athletics and you have your academics, and they are a student athlete, which is to say they're a student first and an athlete second, according to the school. But also according to the school, they have to excel in their athletics as well.
Right.
So I try to make it as easy as possible for them. And I think if you give them these project management tools like Trello, Scrum, goal setting, and SMART goals, and then ChatGPT to do all the heavy lifting of creating it, crunching the data for them, then they can turn weeks of work into maybe an hour.
Yeah.
That's really important, especially for those college-age kids who don't know how to project manage.
Yeah.
I remember having a planner back in college. I'm pretty sure I would just write things down and never look at it again because I still do that. But I'm a good project manager at Day Cloud, but I didn't have those skills in college or when I got there. And so,
which is a shame, don't you think, Chelsea? I wish we were taught that, like front. First day. I wish we were taught that stuff like first day because it would help so much just with classwork, let alone everything else.
I mean, that should be its own class in and of itself, project management, prioritization as a student.
Yeah.
Truth be told, I try to sneak it in the first few weeks. I try to sneak in like, here are some best practices. I'm going to recommend endless books to you all, so just get used to it. And then I put it in the announcement so that way they can reference it later on.
Yeah,
and,
that's good.
And Atomic Habits is one of them. That's a must, a must to your audience. Have to have Atomic Habits. Build it into your daily routine. Ultra Learning is an amazing book. If anybody in your audience is a student at any age, at any level, read Ultra Learning, because Ultra Learning would have condensed 4 years of college into maybe a year. They give examples on how you can optimize your learning. And for you all, there's a learning curve to every kind of guest and every new endeavor. And this will give you kind of cornerstone, keystone tools on how to just crunch your learning time into a fraction.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Liz, next month's book club, you and I can chat.
Ultra Learning, Atomic Habits, and The One Thing. The One Thing is great for goal setting.
Do you only work with, no, you probably don't, but athletes? I know you help businesses streamline their processes through AI. So you work with those individual athletes as well as businesses?
I do, yeah. When I'm at the university, I'll work with individual students, and the classes that I teach now are integrated: undergrads, grads, business, communications, engineering, cinema, actors. There's a full mix of student body that I get to teach these days. And then I'll usually do the athletes kind of either group work or one-to-one work during the summertime when they have a little bit more free time. But I will occasionally get the group or the individual that needs support now, like stat.
Let me ask you this. So you start off with consulting, like, hey, here's how you get all of your branding and your project management and your marketing stuff set up. And then you mentioned that after that's kind of all set in place, then you move into helping them get sponsorships. Is that what you said? Is that right?
Correct.
Did I hear you right? Okay. So then tell me a little bit about how you go about finding sponsors for these college athletes and what that process looks like.
Well, this is where, as a leader of any kind, and you all know you're leaders of your respective expertise and industries and roles, a leader can't do everything. A leader has to have a team around them, and everybody has a diverse skill set. I used to, as I said earlier, was in the fire department, and we were cross-trained, and you have everybody cross-trained on all of the skills and tools, et cetera. But then you have specialists. You have an engineer, you have a captain, you have a senior firefighter, you have people who specialize. And I think that's the same model that I approach things with. So long way to answer your question, Liz, is that I will pull in someone who has more expertise, whether it's at the university or if it's outside with an agency or internally in my company. We have recently got into that as well, but I've brought in somebody who has that expertise. And so I know how to do all of the NIL upfront, the student athlete, but also with the university. And then on the back end with the sponsors and the sponsorship, I'll bring somebody in who does that for a living, because there are people who just do that, where they connect with sponsors, with creators, influencers, and then they get that connection made, that deal made.
Is that companies like Octagon, Bosserman, are those larger agencies that you kind of hire to create those partnerships?
We work with agencies, yes, exactly like that. But I also in-house have hired somebody who will do that for us internally. She's great.
I think I know who you're talking about. She's pretty great.
Yeah, she is.
Let's switch over to some AI conversations. I know we kind of alluded to it earlier. So tell us a little bit about your experience. I know you mentioned that you're helping some of these student athletes utilize it, but tell me a little bit more about how you really got into it and all that good stuff.
Again, this is the reason why you have experts around you. I have an expert around me. He's amazing at technology. He's amazing at strategy and marketing and digital marketing. Before it officially came out, he knew about it.
Yeah.
And then he was like, Jeremiah, have you heard of ChatGPT? And I was like, tell me, what is it? What is it? And we did kind of a tutorial on it, and I was just hooked. And what I discovered, and we did some deep learning on it. He did some deep learning on it. I did some. We did some together. And since then, again, universities are hubs of resources. And so we have entire departments at USC, for example, who are just dedicating themselves to learning how to use all this stuff, or who have been on the forefront of developing it. And so aligning my technical team with those people so they can learn that, because I need to lead as much as learn how to use the technology really well. And certain tech, like ChatGPT, I learned how to use it really well, but I'm never going to learn how to use it at the level that these engineers and developers know how to use it. Like, I'm not going to write code or anything like that.
Yeah,
but
that's not your job.
Not my job, right? But I did do a deep dive into it, and I learned that the skill set that I have for teaching is really, really, really valuable with interfacing with ChatGPT, for example, and AI, because the more specific you are, the better outcome you're going to get. So the more specific you write your prompts, and now I write my prompts as like entire pages. My prompt is like 6 paragraphs, and it'll take all of that. You sound
like an academic.
I try to bridge the academic mind with the entrepreneurial mind and make it accessible.
But you just told me that you write ChatGPT an essay to get something back. I don't know if
exactly what he wants.
Because I do get exactly what I want back from ChatGPT, because it's not bound by anything. It's endless, no boundaries. And so the more specific you are, in so much as you use words like, I want you to write a detailed, comprehensive, inspiring, enthusiastic, while referencing Atomic Habits, Ultra Learning, The One Thing, and then it will integrate all of that into whatever the outcome is that I want. And I've found that the more precise I can write it, the better the outcome. And you can do this any application. I mean, Liz, Chelsea, there are so many applications for this. It is nuts. It's great, but it's nuts.
Tell me some of the best or even strangest, maybe give me both, ways that you've used ChatGPT.
Wow. Well, I have like a laundry list of its applications. I'll tell you maybe like the best or strangest. Automating repetitive tasks, things that would take you a lot of time normally. Repetitive tasks, it'll do very quickly. Integrating with other systems like Firefly can integrate with your CRM, and that's an AI software. Meeting Notes, for example. It'll provide insightful data analysis provided you have the correct data. I tell that to my students a lot. Enhancing customer service, you can connect it to chatbots. You can train it to be your customer service. And so now you have round the clock customer service. Decision making, you can create an entire C-suite of experts. Like ChatGPT, assume the identity of a masterful team of CEO, COO, CFO, CRO, CSO, like all the things with legal expertise for the state of California, Los Angeles County. You can give it this identity, and then you can tell it what to do based on that identity, like write strategy, write proposals, write SOPs, etc. It can crunch your turnaround time for something that would be a time critical thing. Decision making, data driven insights. Those are some of the applications. But now we see it also used in art and images, right? It's controversial, but it's also for someone like ourselves who need to develop content. It's like, well,
quickly,
there's no quickly, there's no copyright on my image, so I will use my content all day long and then repurpose it as needed with Magic Studio and Canva, for example. So those are some of the applications that we've used it. I write a lot of proposals, and I have a particular template that I use, and I've trained our ChatGPT on how to write our proposals the way that we want to. Highly recommend another book by Alex Hormozi.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah, he's great. Hormozi. Yeah, he's great.
I love
was
him.
it $100 million offers?
Yeah.
We write our proposals basically based on that model with some other kind of additions. Yeah. It's a great template, and it's a great approach to presenting a proposal, but also we have different time zones that we have to consider. So Dubai is like 12 hours opposite time zone. We have time zones in China that we've worked in, time zones in India that we work in. And so we have to turn things around quickly. Otherwise we lose a day. And so this is where that comes in handy as well. So proposals, getting those turned around within maybe same day, less than 24 hours. That's where this really excels, because then you can create it, brand it, send it out, get it turned around, and then get feedback while the customer is still, or prospective client, prospective customers, still very, very interested. Yeah.
There's levels to ChatGPT though. Isn't there like a free version and then there's a paid version? What's the difference?
The difference is critical thinking. I would say in a simplistic description, it is critical thinking that the 4.0 version can think more critically. And as a business, they put particular limits and restrictions. Like you can only do so many, I think it's like 30 chats with the 4.0 version an hour or something like that. So if you go over that, then you have to wait a particular whatever determined period, like 30 minutes or 45 minutes or something, and then it'll reset and then you can do it again. But you get a better product. So like Chelsea, if you wanted to cross-reference like the aforementioned 3 books and you wanted an outline and you wanted to see how you could apply it to your life and your daily routine, and you told it what time you wake up and go to sleep, and then you wanted it segmented out by, I don't know, hour intervals, it'll do all of that. Now, what you would get with the 3.5
like Spark Notes on crack, like
Spark Notes, while integrating it into your life, you're like, I want you to apply the atomic habits to my life. You could get that, and you could get it from both versions, but you're going to get a much more accurate and better version from the 4.0. Yeah.
Interesting. That's crazy.
And it's constantly learning.
Yeah. So it has better ability to process your paragraphs or your essays that you send it.
Yes. I would say it prefers my paragraphs. It prefers my paragraphs versus some people's like one sentences. One sentences might not be enough parameter for it, you know?
Yeah. I've used it before and I find myself always adding a sentence. I'm like, make it more creative or quirky or something like that. Yeah. Give this personal voice.
Yeah.
You can train it to speak like you, by the way. If you want to do like a tutorial on that sometime, maybe I can come back and I can show you all how to train it to speak like you. And then when you write your content, it'll just assume that identity.
That's crazy. I've never heard that before. I've never heard that before. No, I haven't.
Yeah. Yes, you can give it full-on identities.
It's going to be like, I'm Liz Hunt, and Liz is going to be like, no, I'm Liz Hunt.
No.
Until it takes us over and enslaves us all, right?
Yeah, I mean, Skynet is real.
Exactly. Skynet.
We've had designers use the AI for design, like create a headshot or create this photo. And it's so funny to see all the issues that are out there with like 6 fingers, small things here and there. I'm just messing around, obviously, but it's kind of cool what it does work with and what it doesn't.
I guess is that they needed an essay from Jeremiah.
Make sure it has 5 fingers.
Yes.
Because if you get that 6-fingered picture back, then you have to go back and you have to then adjust that prompt to say 5 fingers. Yeah. I try to get ahead of it now because I know unless you have an ongoing conversation with it, that it already has this assumed identity, which is what I've learned in my 6 paragraphs that I give it. I have a formula where I'll give it an identity first, like assume the identity and expertise of, said identity. And then I'll tell it what to do and I'll break that down into the respective bullet points. And then I'll have a conclusion to it, which will then kind of give it its ultimate direction. But once I establish that formula with it, I can give it any client's data thereafter,
Interesting. That's cool. I love it.
Yeah. I've also, and you all might, I don't know, think I'm even more of a dork or an academic because of this, is that I've written a ChatGPT prompt to optimize my prompts.
That's how you know. That's how you know.
Just getting to know you, honestly, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Oh, man.
I love it.
My secret is out. Yeah.
Show me how to help you. Help me help you.
You can steal that now. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So how do you kind of foresee ChatGPT or AI in general moving forward in the future? Because even in the short time that it has been around, it's changed and adapted and upgraded itself so fast.
What we know to be reality right now, it could automate all of that. Ultimately, it could automate your entire Amazon experience, which is a significant experience for people. Alibaba, for example, is equivalent in China and other parts of the world.
Right.
It can automate all of that. Will there be a need for human interface? Yes. I think at some point we'll probably just become entirely just consumers, where we won't have a work capacity. And I think if you follow Elon Musk's work, he's already predicting this. And if you look at his work, it was a few months ago where he posted something where he had built these human looking robots and then he downloaded into their software AI. And so they were operating like, that is to say, walking around a room and functioning like human beings, but with an AI kind of mind inside their robot bodies.
Yeah.
And you just saw these
movie.
Yeah.
I've seen that movie. I think there's a couple of them out there. Will Smith.
Yes.
Right. And so I think that's not a far-fetched reality for us, where people could ultimately have a universal wage. And like, if you wanted to work, then you'll work, and then you could do better. But if you don't want to work, then you'll have robots doing it for you. But it'll also do all of our marketing analytics. You all know, like, how much market research you have to do and how much research you have to do on a person.
Yeah.
Probably within a year or two, you'll just be able to plug this into an AI platform, perhaps ChatGPT or another.
Yeah.
And it'll give you like complex decision making. It'll give you predictive and analytics, give you algorithms. Already you can kind of do that with ChatGPT. You could leverage the social media algorithms on how you write your content. Again, write that into your prompt. It'll leverage the algorithm of Instagram or Twitter or not Twitter, X, right? TikTok and LinkedIn. So it's already doing that, but it'll just assume that in the future. And they can be interfaced into cars. We already have self-driving cars, again, thanks to Elon Musk. But all cars will be that. And trains will be that. And flying will be that. And it'll probably have a better driving record, flight record than people at some point, because it won't make the human error.
I will say those little robot chats on the website, they infuriate me.
Oh, really?
No, they never really answer my question. And it's always like, we'll get an agent for you. And
you mean when you're on somebody's website and you want answers and they have the little
I guess it's
automated...
more like the support. Yeah. I'm like, I want to talk to someone real. I want to talk to somebody real. And they're like, are you asking about this? And I'm like, no. Maybe because I need to include it in a paragraph. I'm not doing it right.
I think it'll only get better, kind of like what Jeremiah is saying. It's always learning. And so it sounds like it's going to constantly get better and better.
Always. Yeah. Always. Scary good right now. It's going to get even more scarier good.
Yeah. Okay. So I have two questions. One, tell me, what is the strangest thing that you have used the AI for? Because I need to know.
Oh yeah, he didn't answer that, did he?
Did I not answer that?
He skipped over it.
I just really want to know.
See, you can't slip anything past. What is the strangest? I don't know. Maybe the most unique was we were able to, and we would have been able to do this, but we did it in like record time, within a day. It might have took me like a month to figure this out, but we did it in a day to project how we could maximize the profits of one of our prospective clients to ultimately triple their revenue for a 12-month fiscal cycle. And it was right. And I was like, that was great. Yeah. And it's the largest company of its kind in the United States. And I was like, this is great. This is fantastic. So we submitted basically a nearly $1 billion proposal, and it was accurate. It was correct. And I thought that was one big thing that I was like, okay. And then I went back and I crunched the numbers and did all of that. And then the implementation strategy, talked to the execution team on it. They're like, yep, this is all good. We can do all of this. I was like,
wow.
Well done. Well done, ChatGPT. Thank you.
Seriously. That's crazy.
That had to have included a lot of prompts to the accuracy.
Yeah, it did.
That's insane.
But it was. And it was a lot of intake from the prospective client as well.
Sure.
But we took all of that and then plugged it in, and I gave it everything that I wanted. And I think maybe I did a few revisions at the end of the day, but the heavy lifting was getting all the information from the prospective client, organizing all of that in a way that it made sense to me to start, then basically dumping that into ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT just cranking it out in like I said, like a day. Cause, I had to go through a few iterations of it and then take certain parts of it, chunks of it, to put it all together. But for the most part, again, within a day, we got this amazing product that is going to transform the revenue of this company.
Wow. That's insane.
Insane.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. And I didn't have to, when you're trying to matchmake, like for influencer marketing or if you're trying to matchmake for your service offerings, it can be tedious and it can be, my words are escaping me. Yeah, time consuming. Exactly. Yeah. But ChatGPT just, from the previous part of the conversation, knew exactly what we offered, knew exactly what I wanted. Yeah. And I gave it exact directions and instructions, and it gave me what I wanted.
So let me ask you this. What are the things that you would say, like, we have to have human beings for this, Can the computers and AI and all that stuff, what can it never take over for the human condition and experience?
As of right now, I think creating. That is to say, creating the new idea. What it can do is it can take existing content and replicate it, innovate on it in terms of mash up a picture or content or whatever. But what it can't do is it can't create, for example, the entertainment industry. How they just went on strike, like there was the writers, the actors. Mm-hmm. But if you notice, the directors, the DGA, did not go on strike. Mm-hmm. They did not, because they got exactly what they wanted within 24 hours. And I know the chairwoman who helped write the contract. And she put in a clause in there for ChatGPT that this can't replicate our work. Look at the work that we do. We are the leaders of this, and we are basically the conductors of the orchestra. It can't do what we do. That we could use it for a tool like James Cameron used a lot of AI graphics design stuff for Avatar, right? Or Avatar 2. So I think that most creative, the
innovation of the
actual creation of the thing, it can't come up with that.
That's interesting. Like it still needs, it still needs the direction to be given. Yeah. It still needs the ultimate conductor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but Adobe for a while there, I remember one of our designers saying that Adobe was studying designers in Adobe and the projects that they were creating in order to create AI art. And so by studying the designers and their work, the AI was able to replicate the things that it was learning. But super interesting, it can't fully innovate, but it can replicate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Exactly. Another professor moment here. There's another great book by Simon Sinek, Leaders Eat Last. Yeah. And he talks about leadership. And I don't think that AI can do leadership like human being can. Not just roles of management. Like there are people who are leaders and there are people who are managers, right?
Yeah.
Steve Jobs versus Tim Cook. Steve Jobs is a visionary. Tim Cook is a great manager. He's a great steward, custodian of Apple, but he's not Steve Jobs. What Steve Jobs did as a leader. Same thing with, I think it's Charles Schultz of Starbucks. Guy took coffee, just coffee, regular coffee, into this whole experience that's a multi-billion-dollar company worldwide. Right. So it can't do that. And the reason why it can't is because, and Simon Sinek unpacks this in his book, is that we have chemistry that binds us together, like serotonin and oxytocin and endorphins and dopamine, like all that stuff does something with us. Like we connect to people and we need that. And as of right now, until this becomes a robot society, we need that to connect with one another. And we do, and we will, and we don't with other people who don't elicit those chemical responses in us. Mm-hmm. And so leaders, I think that leadership at its best, it optimizes all of that, let's call it positive chemistry. And so inspiring someone, that's biochemical. And so a robot can't do that.
I totally agree.
Yeah. A robot can't love us either. I'll put that in there. But you might be able to create a dating app with an AI. Some lonely guys out there might be able to sign up.
It's going to be AI video gaming, and they're like, I love.
It's so creepy.
iRobot 23956.
Yes. Yes.
They love me.
It's dark, but but I think that obviously there's going to be a market for that, but love is a human drive. There's only three human drives according to Maslow, and love is one of them. And I would argue the strongest of the three human drives.
Yeah.
And we're only going to get that from another human being.
Yeah.
And so we need that.
All this conversation reminds me of the movie. I don't have it at the top of I'll have to Google it and put it in the show notes. But the one where the guy like clicks his neck and like the music starts playing. Is it Centennial Man?
Is that AI? I thought that was AI with
Centennial Man, maybe?
Is it Centennial? I thought it was the movie is called AI, or what's his name? The British actor. He's like the handsome guy that you're talking about who clicked his head, right?
You're right.
Yeah. I forget his name now. All I'm remembering is his scandal with the babysitter. That's all I'm remembering right now.
It was such an old movie, though. I loved it back in the day, but that's what it kind of reminds me of. Isn't Elon developing a neurodisc that goes into the brain, too? He just did it.
Yeah. He just had a successful implant, right? Neuralink. Yeah. So this is going to help people who've had strokes and other brain injuries that now they'll have full use of their body because he's figured out the way of like creating that electrical impulse into that part of the brain now. And just imagine what the 10.0 version of this is going to be. We're going to be able to download information, download memories.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Would you do it?
Yes.
Yes. You would do it? Would you, Liz? Would you?
Probably, yeah.
I probably would fall in line too. I'm like, whatever.
To know all the languages in the world instantly like that. I mean, his argument is that we're already cyborgs. Yeah, I know. See, I'm such a book lover. I might need like an on-off switch because I love turning a page. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's certain things that I don't want it to have access to. Like, you can't remember this.
I know. Yeah. Please don't. I don't need to relive that.
There's also that TV show of Black Mirror.
Oh, yeah.
We're getting really down a dark rabbit hole, but Black Mirror has, like, one of their shows is that their eyes are kind of like robot eyes, and they can then replay memories over and over again. And it's kind of freaky. Black Mirror has a lot of different shows that you're like, that could be real, and it's kind of scary, terrifying.
That's probably why it's so scary, is because it's like, this all could actually be real.
Yeah.
I remember the actor's name. Jude Law. It was Jude Law. It was Jude Law, handsome guy. He was like the handsome guy in the movie, and it's called AI. That's the name of the movie. Wow. Spielberg directed it. Yeah, with Haley Joel Osment as the little boy.
That tracks.
Yeah,
that tracks.
That tracks.
So, yeah.
Oh, cool.
So, just to kind of close this out, if you were to share some great AI tools or whatever for some small businesses that are getting their startup, or, maybe have been around a bit, but they just need to build in some efficiencies, what would be some of those AI tools that you would recommend?
Is this a startup or is this a mid-level? Because we work with all different levels of a company, and many companies need this anyways, whether they're established or new, that whether they don't know about it at any stage of that growth cycle. So which one would you say?
I would say they're 3 to 5 years in, and they need to build in some efficiencies.
I would immediately give them a project management tool, let's say ClickUp or Asana.
Yeah.
And I would have them interface that with Firefly, which takes your meeting notes. I would connect that to a CRM, depending on how many leads they have coming in per day. I would recommend Close for something that's small to mid, and then HubSpot for something that's mid to large. And you can connect all of those together. You could connect your CRM, your Fireflies, and your project management tool all together. So that way they're communicating. So when you go into a meeting, Firefly will take the meeting notes for you and then drop that into the contacts. So the lead. So you don't have to go back in and manually input that. That'll save you tons of just kind of administrative, repetitive task time. Yeah. But also, I find that that's where you're going to get the gold, is from those meeting notes. And then you can take those meeting notes and develop meeting note summaries, proposals from those meeting notes, where you'll just go into Firefly, copy, paste that, plug that into, and you have to use ChatGPT today, folks. Like, you just have to. If you're not using ChatGPT, you're not in the game, because everybody else is using it. I would say for any content creators, Canva's great. It's super easy to use, but it's also connected to AI right now and probably forever. I think those are some good tools that I would use. to create efficiency, repetitive task, but also sales processing. ChatGPT would help a lot with the sales manager, sales specialist, provided they had the right prompts. And then honestly, I think good old training, like just constantly being up to date on, like, for example, Alex Hormozy's work, like $100 million offers, $100 million leads. If you know that information, then you can plug it into your ChatGPT, your AI prompts, and get a really great product back. So I would say there's also no substitute for constant learning, though you can use your ChatGPT and your AI for book summaries and outlines and then create training curriculums. And that's part of what I do, not just for my students, but for my teams. You know, we're onboarding a few salespeople right now, sales manager and a few salespeople. And, you know, I'll give them entire curriculums that would normally have taken me a week to write, but it's taken me like 30 minutes with ChatGPT. Yeah.
That's so cool. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, we got to wrap up because I always limit Liz to an hour episode.
Okay.
But thanks for joining us. I can tell you're a professor. You're so well spoken, and like I love all the topics.
Thanks.
Well, no, that is absolutely a compliment.
Thanks. Thank you.
For our listeners, if you like this episode, you can like, share, follow. In the show notes included in our episode, I'll link to Jeremiah's stuff and his contact information. I'll also link all of the books that Jeremiah recommended and maybe some of the movies that we talked about. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is great.
Awesome.
Cool.